All right, so chili, all I say is that chili's a lot of ingredients. And, day one, you've got your sausage. I do sausage, hamburger, and chorizo. I've got peppers. I've got, different seasonings, a little beer in there. There's all this different stuff that brings chili together. But like day one, you can let that simmer on the pot for 3-4 hours, and it's good day one. It's good. You like, this is going to be a good bowl of chili. But if you give it 2 or 3 days to come together, then you've got that is primo chili. So oftentimes I've used the analogy with our team, we're still day one chili. Every time you introduce someone new, Justin comes on, we're a brand new bowl of chili. So you have got to give that time to meld together before. And so everybody, you panic, I don't know if this is going to work. And say, just give it, let the chili simmer a little bit. That's what chili
day is our team on right now?
And we're primo chili. We're day 3 chili at the moment.
I
wouldn't change a thing about our chili at the moment.
Welcome to LeadSC, Springfield Clinic's podcast for all things leadership and connection.
Today we have Zach Kerker and Colby Baumberger on our show. Welcome, guys.
What's going on?
Hey guys, how are you?
Good.
I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't a little intimidated. You are my bosses.
So be smart with what you ask.
Yeah, I have to be careful here. I guess I can't pry too deep. So first off, I really just want to kind of get an idea of how you guys work together and what your goal is for Springfield Clinic's brand and experience team.
We have a pretty common vision about what we want it to be. I think it's always felt like a partnership. I had no healthcare experience 5 years ago when I walked in the door, and Colby had been at this organization for 6 years and had a very thorough understanding of what our operating procedure was and who the stakeholders were, all those different things. And so I was at a deficit in that area. And what I asked us to do was to think about doing things in an outside the box kind of way, maybe because I was coming in with an outside lens. Mm-hmm. And so it's always very much felt to me like it took her input on certain things for me to understand, and it took my input on certain things for her to see, what direction we wanted to go in. But that has been a really good collaborative experience and relationship. That's, I love our team. I love the people on our team. I love what we're capable of. And I think if you would have taken us back 5 years ago and said, this is what it will look like, and this is what your team can and does accomplish on a daily basis, we'd be super happy with where we are right now.
I mean, I feel like overall, our vision for the team, we don't sit together and we hammer out really specific data details about this is where we're going and this is what we want from a team. I think it's just an overall gut feel of surround ourselves with people with similar standards to ours, and then let's all make stuff that we feel proud of. And then I think the rest of how that's received by the community and the organization and how that performs, it kind of just all fills in. But it's really that core of just making sure that we're feeling fulfilled and we feel like we're knocking it out of the park, and then
let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go back to when, Kerker, you first started, because you're had no healthcare experience. You two seem to gravitate toward each other very quickly, and I feel like you guys have had this awesome team dynamic ever since. So what kind of drew you to her?
One of the main things for me when it comes to who's on the team is how much do you care about it? Do you care? Do you give a lot of craps? I mean, just honestly. And that's such a critical part, I think, to having good, you can teach someone to do a skill set, but teaching someone to have initiative and really care about what it is that they're doing are things that you could work with someone for a lifetime on and never have that. And it was clear that Colby really cared. I mean, we had some conversations early in my tenure where it was just clear that she really cared about what this team was going to be doing and how we were going to do it. And so it was just kind of obvious. Plus, she was the longest tenured person on the team. And so there was sort of a level of authority that she brought to the conversation. And she had a level of respect within the organization that I did not. And so I really needed to make sure that when, some of the ideas that we if it's a traditional idea, if it's this is the way that we've always done this, I really hate that, just general mindset. Mm-hmm. And so even if it's maybe the right thing to continue doing sometimes, I'm going to ask whether we should try to do something differently. And so for an outsider to come in and do that with no credibility or respect within the organization is a really treacherous thing to do. And so I really kind of leaned on the respect that Colby had throughout the organization because people knew that she was well-intentioned, that she produced high-quality work. So, the partnership has just made sense in a lot of ways since the beginning.
You know, for Colby, what was it for you with Zach coming in with a completely different background? Didn't work in healthcare.
There was a lot of skepticism. I mean, we were all a team and got pulled together by the CEO one day, and he was like, "This is going to be your new director." And so we're all just like, "Who is this guy and what's he about?" And like, none of us have any idea. And we're a little scared. We're nervous about that. But I think as soon as Zach came in, it was like instant trust, I guess. Like, I just feel like he from day one made us feel heard and like he was going to get us out of whatever rut I feel like we were in before. There was so much unrealized potential on the team. I knew it was there. We just weren't capitalizing on it, and he kind of gave us permission to do that.
Mostly because I didn't know what to do when I walked in the door. Like I tell the story, I literally used to go to meetings and write. There's like in healthcare, there's so many acronyms, and I remember like writing down the acronyms in my notebook and then going back to my office or going home and Googling the acronyms just so I would understand what was being talked about at the meeting. There was a literal deficit for me walking in the door to understand what conversations were being had around me. And so it really did require the team to step up and be the subject matter expert while I was trying to bring what are different ways that we can tell these stories and do these things. And I really think a big part of that was like trying to bring healthcare into a more modern, convenient space. So there's a lot of objectives that were greater than just, an ad campaign around a specific department and stuff that I was trying to help the organization figure out. And in the meantime, the bus had to stay on the road, right? And so the fact that you guys knew healthcare and what we were doing to help support our stakeholders in the meantime while we built the vision for the future, we're not here unless you guys were so capable and competent.
Forgive me if I don't know that timeline exactly, but when you started, you were not director of brand and experience. And was that a title that Kerker awarded you during this process?
Yeah. So I was a specialist when he came on. A senior specialist, maybe. He did these like one-on-one meetings with each of us, and he showed me since then that he found the sheet from when we had first met, and he had written down that I would be a leader on the team from that first interaction that we had. So pretty quickly after he started, I became a co-manager in the department, and then I don't know how long after.
I need to see these sheets, by the way. Do you have all of
They're
our
locked
sheets?
and key somewhere.
They're in my archive. They are, yeah. Because it's such a symbolic moment of like having come in here and just like a huge step in my life and my career, is just a real jump off the cliff moment and hope that the parachute opens kind of experience. That it was just, those early days, that takes me right back to that. And it was scary.
So what was it about Colby in that one-on-one that moved you to write Future Leader down?
You just see she cared. I mean, it goes back to what I said, if you really care, that goes such a long way for us figuring this out. She had genuine interest in helping this team develop. I could see that she knew that there was so much that this team was capable of, and it just seemed like a good. And I could tell immediately she had the respect of the team, which is another really important thing.
One of the unique things that I've noticed in the past month, I've been taking all the leadership classes that Springfield Clinic offers. The part of this podcast was us chipping in and kind of learning the Springfield Clinic way. And I've sat through three of them now, and every single one of them, they give examples of what great leadership is. And I think I've looked at you in every single class and said, our department does all of this. And all of the negative things they talk about leadership is not done in the brand and experience team. And I'm not saying that because you're my bosses and you're sitting right across from me. It really did feel that way. And for you guys, what was your mission to create the way that this department works and the way that you lead the people that are under you?
We were more interested in finding the right people and getting them on the team than we were being like, we need someone with a specific skill set and let's get them on here. We wanted creative people who cared. Was a big part of it.
We're always just on them. Like when we're hiring, I love the interview process because I get to meet a bunch of people that are interested in the same stuff I'm interested in. But it's like you just get to kind of look and find people that you'll like working with and that I think you vibe with. And there's so much that's like not written on paper. Like we're not super concerned about degrees or how specific your cover letter is written or whatever. It's like, it's a vibe check, and so we get people in and we meet with them long enough that we feel like, okay, we could really see ourselves working with this person or these people. And then once that person gets in and that hopefully checks out, like that energy, the passion, the shared desire to like kick ass and take names, like that's all just starts happening. It just falls into place. I don't know. That sounds very like
Can we say ass on this podcast?
overly
just did.
simplified. I did.
It's okay. She's the boss. She said so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we
HR
all know
don't come at me.
how that works.
It's true.
We're marketing.
Yeah.
We ask for forgiveness later. That's
Right.
kind
Yes.
of the.
Yes.
I would say that Colby and I have spent more time talking about team dynamic than probably anything else in our tenure. More than specific structure of the machine. I mean, more than it is part of that. Like getting the right people on creates a healthy team dynamic. Putting proper processes in place creates a healthy dynamic. And a lot of times our conversation, we're talking about dynamic, we're saying we keep banging our head in the wall with this process or with this thing that we're doing. Like we know that this is the right direction to be moving, but why isn't it working? And why are teammates frustrated with this? Because we have conviction in what it is we're trying to accomplish, but we're not doing it right, And so we spend a lot of time trying to sort through the minutia of that and understanding. I mean, a lot of times she brings feedback. It's other things too, like, you're always going to have a team member who's got stuff going on outside of work in their personal life that is going to impact their ability to do work in here. And we've always tried to create an environment where you can experience that and know that, this is your work and that you have a responsibility here, but also we care about you as a person and we care about how you're doing in your personal life, and those things there's got to be a balance there. And so we spend a lot of times talking about that and trying to create an environment where that's possible. And I'm not saying that we do it perfectly all the time or that there's never, but it's like a healthy team dynamic is an ever moving target, because when nothing stays stagnant. That person who's got something going on at home maybe feels better a week later, but then somebody else has something, or maybe I've got something, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And if there's a sense that something's amiss or something's off, we try to diagnose and we try to figure out a way to, and sometimes it's just let it play out, but like that's a big part of our conversation is where are we with what we're trying to accomplish? And do we need to adjust things to better allow the team to be successful in that mission?
We know that this isn't everybody's entire lives, but we also know that this is a big part of everybody's lives. Like, we spend a lot of time here together, so like, I don't want anybody to be miserable here. And so if there are opportunities for me to adjust things, given the weight that I can throw around as a leader to make this a better environment for my team every day, I'm going to go after that. I think some days there's a certain grind element, or we just need to put our heads down and get stuff done. But at the end of the day, that's kind of my overall philosophy is like, I want to be happy here, and I want my people to be happy here. And I don't want to dread coming to work every day.
I think the biggest thing that I've learned about being a leader with this team is sometimes, most of the time, I just need to get out of the way. I'm not a micromanager by nature, but I did come from a world where I was a producer. I was a daily producer. I was the director, but I was in content every day and had my hands on what it was we were doing. I was shooting it. I was editing it. I was posting it. And so I felt that sense of like, that was fulfillment for me. It was a day's hard work was that I'm in there, and the way that I know that we've built a team that's really strong is that I'm not nearly as good at that part as the people who are on our team now. And so while I try to interject and provide some general direction sometimes so that whatever it is that we're working on aligns with the objective, I have really learned to step out a lot in the creative process, because the things that we come up with as a team are so much better than I would ever come up with, And so I think that's a signal that we've gotten it right to some extent with how we've built the team, is that you really don't have to get in and constantly say what should happen here. You guys get that. And that is an awesome position to be in as a leader, is to have a team that you can just trust is going to go out, produce, I always say, on time, really high standard stuff, and just stuff that we know we're going to be able to hang our hat on. I never doubt that that's what our team's mode is.
And I love that our stuff isn't quiet. Like, we've been a couple places recently that we've gotten a lot of compliments of, it's not just we produce great stuff that, our internal audiences or our direct patients see and appreciate. Like, we get a lot of feedback from a lot of places that
other healthcare organizations specifically.
what we're doing is significant and eye-catching and attention-grabbing, and it's different than what is being done a lot of other places.
I don't feel like many of them, I mean, it's that traditional healthcare sort of mindset, right? Where risk is sort of adverse. Like it's health in general, right? Risk is adverse. And, you know, you look at the brand that we've transitioned to, it's bold. You know, the colors are bold, the message is bold.
The content's bold.
And our content is bold, but that's because storytelling should grab your attention. It shouldn't, yeah.
I think we owe it to the audience to kind of define something real quick of like, what is our mission here with Brand and Experience?
I mean, I don't know if this directly answers the question, but I was just talking to somebody the other day about, you know, they're like, how do you get permission to push the boundaries in healthcare like you do? And, you know, I think that was kind of the permission that you gave us when you came on, was like to break that mold. Because I feel very strongly that healthcare, the approach to healthcare marketing is always so
120 combined years and experience, and you know, and
I just feel like that's so disingenuous, though.
Right.
You know, like it feels like the safe route, but to me, it's not
approachable.
It's not real, though.
Yeah.
They talk to their coworkers. They have fun. They joke with their patients. They have amazing, blossoming, positive relationships with their patients that last years and years and years. Capitalizing on that optimism, I think, has been our approach to our voice for the clinic. It's not that we shy away from the sad stories or don't tug at the heartstrings, but at the end of the day, we're trying to bring levity, the lightness, the breath into healthcare marketing, I guess.
We're intentionally trying to do something different than the traditional marketing for healthcare. And the idea of that being is that you can't break through the noise if you're doing what everybody else is doing. It's just going to blend in with everybody else, you know? And so when you do a Celine Dion challenge and it's like, what is the tie to healthcare here, you know? And the reaction to it is, man, what a fun place to work that must be. And I want to go work there. Like, hey, I know that person. They took care of me. And a successful healthcare journey is a story of vibrancy. And so to bring vibrancy to the content, I think, is really what that's objective has been. And so we rebrand a year into our tenure, right? And what we realized is we spent several years telling people what Springfield Clinic was by relaying what our brand was. But there's a whole other side of that, which is if a patient sees what you say you are, but then comes in and experiences something different, then the dissonance between what you've said you are and what you really are, it makes people feel like we're disingenuous in what we're saying that we are, and it creates a trust issue with us. Well, you can't have trust issues with your healthcare leaders, right? With your healthcare organization, you can't. You have to trust them. So that's where experience came in, and it became like we need to validate that we are what we say we are within our brand, which is that we want growth, we want to be able to embrace our patients and care for them and nurture them, and we want to provide that journey for them, but we want to do it in a modern setting with convenience, you know, built into the experience like you expect when you make reservations at a restaurant or, you know, get on and order your groceries online, you know, all those pieces. If we say we're going to be differential or modern or convenient, you got to put all those pieces together. And that's where the experience department was built out. And that's how those things came together. And, yeah, I think it's marketing and communications. It's a typical name for a department. When we said we were brand and experience, I think people are like, why do you got to reinvent the wheel? But there was a very specific intention behind what we were trying to accomplish there. And it was just to say you can't have either of those things without the other because they won't be successful.
So when you have other healthcare organizations and people reach out to you, be like, your stuff is so cool, your messaging is so cool, like, how does that make you guys feel?
Like rock stars. I mean, it's great to get that recognition, and I don't know, I feel very grateful because, I mean, I brag about this team to anybody that will listen to me because I'm just so floored and blown away by the talent that we have on this team, the collaborativeness that we have on this team. Like, it doesn't happen like this. I'm fully convinced. I mean, I've been on other teams or been in other environments where, and I think a lot of us have come from this, you know, creatives especially, that it all falls on us to wear all the hats and do all the things. And like the fact that we have just a whole bunch of individual creative powerhouses together that are open to not being the shining star in the room and work together and make something amazing is like, it's what I love about work.
Yeah.
You know, I think one thing about those projects that you just mentioned, and we've talked about pulling the curtain back a lot. I think about if you pull the curtain back on you two as leaders, at least from my perspective, it's the ability that you allow us to fail. You allow us to try. And I think both of those projects were like, hey, let's see what happens. Let's try. We're not afraid to push those boundaries. So for you guys, what's it like to understand that failure's okay sometimes? Have you guys failed in the past 5 years of your together? And you know why is that so important to allow your employees and people under you to do that?
I mean, I feel like I have a healthy dose of feels like I'm failing all the time. But like, I mean, you got to keep trying. And I feel like the egos being checked at the door is a big part of that. And trust is a big part of that. Not being afraid to fail in front of other people. I think we have that, and that allows us to get the places that we go, is because there's not a lot of fearfulness on this team where, you know, my team should never fear coming to me and saying I messed up, or, you know, any of that. Like, that happens all the time. There's a lot of grace and forgiveness in that. We'll figure out how to move on. All we can do is figure out how to move on together from that, you know? So I think
it's a core leadership competency for me, is to trust your team to make decisions. I say I expect our leaders on our team to make decisions, and I trust that if I've done the right job in putting those leaders in place, that 95% of the time they'll get it right. The fact that they've made those decisions without escalating everything, it makes them more efficient. It empowers them. They expect to make those decisions. And there is the 5 to 10% of the time where that mistake's going to happen, but that mistake is always a growth opportunity. And so it's a chance for us to talk about, what was the thought process here? How did you come at this decision? You know, what are our takeaways from that? You know, and to be honest with you, this is a really important thing that I feel really strongly about this for other leaders, especially young leaders. I talked about that insecurity that sometimes you experience, which I certainly have at times in my life and times in my leadership journey. You can't have that insecurity and be successful, because if you expect to have to make every single decision, there will be such a bottleneck with all the different things coming at you. You'll never grow. The department will never grow from a capacity standpoint, from an additional skill set standpoint, because you will reach a max where you can't do it anymore. And I think the thing that maybe I'm most proud of about what we are is that we started with marketing and communications. We've added patient experience as a part of that. Now we've added community and government advocacy as a part of that. The reason that we've been able to grow like that is because we've put leadership and structure and all the way down to like every individual on our team, I think, should feel a level of empowerment to make decisions in the creative process or in any process, because, you know, it just doesn't make sense to have a leader or myself make every single decision for the team. It literally limits what we're capable of. And so there, again, it's one of those conversations where there's risk in that, yes, but the value of people becoming empowered and gaining the confidence and realizing that they're capable of making those decisions is so much more than the risk of, well, I don't know, if I let them make this decision, maybe they'll make the wrong decision. They might, and that's okay. And we'll rebound from that, because I trust that because you're on this team, that you're here for a reason. That reason is that you're going to make the right decision most of the time.
When did you realize that is an insecurity and that is a problem? Did that happen when you came to Springfield Clinic? Did you learn that earlier on in your career?
I don't remember an aha moment. But I've been micromanaged, and I hate it. I mean, I just loathe it. And so I just don't want to be something that I know I can't respect myself, you know? And so, look, any leader has the moments where they've given authority to someone else to go make the decision or figure it out, where you're like, oh man, like if this goes poorly, the buck stops with me.
I'm in trouble.
And it's on me, and I'm gonna have to figure out how to explain how this happened or whatever. But it all comes back to that whole, the value of that happening, and then it goes so well and so much better than you ever could have made it happen yourself. It's this, that's the epiphany, right? Is like, oh, okay, well, we have to trust that process, even though it's uncomfortable sometimes.
On this side of the fence, of you guys, my leadership, I think it's rare. I feel like it is kind of a rarity to have that trust of your leadership to be able to push back. You guys feel comfortable with people pushing back on you, and other leaders that might not feel comfortable, like, I've talked to people and like, I just don't feel comfortable voicing my opinion to my leaders, or I don't feel like, what advice would you give to that leadership or those people?
I mean, I think you have to give people agency and owning their world a little bit, and just know that you're not always going to be the smartest person in the room or the only person with an idea in the room. And just because, I don't know, I feel like it doesn't feel right to me to wield authority as my voice is the only one that matters. I don't feel that way at all. I love to have sounding boards around me all the time. I very rarely, if it's just me in isolation making a decision, like that's insecurity for me, that I don't get to like ping it off of everybody around me and just make sure that I'm, going down the right path. So I think you have to be open to people telling you if they think you're wrong.
I'd be totally foolish to pretend like I knew more about the day-to-day of much of our operation than the people who are in the day-to-day. It seems like it would be you're supposed to be the one who comes up with everything because you're the leader, but it's really the exact opposite of that, is that a good leader is the one who can take that advice, suggestion, expertise from the team, compile it all and say, well, let's make it go this direction, and let's use all of that information to complete an objective here.
Where was your aha moment for that?
I can tell you exactly where it came from. Very beginning of my tenure, sit down with Ray, the CEO, and we're going to rebrand, right? And we're trying to figure out what that looks like. What's our logo? What's our tagline? What's our mission? What's our objective here, right? And we worked with an outside group who's very good. They're very they've done this a lot of times before. Really helped guide us through the process. But we had produced internally our own vision on what the brand should be. And spoiler alerts, it was leaves oriented, right? Organic vibrancy, all those kinds of things were things. And so we went through this whole process, and we land on a version of what was a logo and brand that we had kind of developed in-house, right? So, all right, so we get there. Now it's time to take it up through the chain of command here to see if the organization agrees with it. We're partner-owned. The physicians take a look at it. We go through the marketing committee, who approved it 10-1. But in that marketing committee meeting, it fell flat. It fell flat because there just wasn't, like, here's the logo is one thing, but here's the story of what we are moving forward and how we can all relate to that and how we can all feel a part of that was the compelling part of the new brand, right? So Colby had just learned how to animate at a class in Chicago like weeks before, and I was like, I see an animation, 60 seconds, that tells the story. I can write the script. Can you put it together? And she's like, yeah. So I kind of joke, but it's kind of true. We put her in her office and locked the door and like slid water and bread under the door for 48 hours because the meeting.
48. It was a solid week.
I was gonna say.
So the meeting with the committee was early in the week, and then the board meeting was at a retreat on Saturday. We had that much time to get from here's the logo to here's the story of the new brand, and so during this time, we're talking to the consultants, and they're saying, you can't do that. No, you have to be pure and show them the brand, and they just have to see the logo by itself. That's what they have to react to. And I was like, well, we just did that, and it went really poorly. Like, we were lucky to get out of that meeting successfully. And there's so much more to this than just like, here's the logo, make your judgment based off of it. So we get into this board retreat, and the consultants had advised us, you need to just go with the logo. It needs to be pure, and we're going to present it. And that's, and we've done this 100 times. Trust us, right? So, okay, all right. I mean, we'll trust you. It's bombing. We're getting into
in
it.
the room.
I wish I was there.
No movement, no energy, no anything. And so
just dead faces.
I jump up and I say, what's bigger than the brand is bigger than the logo. Our brand is our story, and you're our story. I mean, I'm in a room with 13, 14 physicians and all of our administrative team, and say, what you do every day is our story. And so I say, and we think that this tells our story, and we hit play on it. And 60 seconds later, the tenor in the room was a complete flip. And Colby was in the room because she had produced it, and I said, you got to come see whether this, we're in it together now, whether, for better or for worse. And the consultants stepped back, and it was our stage, and the board bought into it in that moment and was behind it, fully behind it. And I think that we had this realization at that moment that like we have to trust ourselves first.
Nobody's going to tell our story better than we do.
And it was kind of this moment where we realized that like, all right, so there's consultants who make, good money to advise and stuff like that, but also our instincts and our experience and knowledge is worth something also. And so I think that was the moment where we realized like, this is our story to tell. This is our brand to own. And let's just, we will regret it if we don't just do it our way, if we let someone else try to tell us how to do this thing. And we had the confidence after that meeting to go do it. And all the pretty girls walk like this and Celine Dion challenge later. And that's like,
I do feel like that was a big genesis. I think for your guys, that was one of your very first big wins together. And it was like, I felt like from then on, it was like Colby and Kerker can like take on the frickin' world. And
it was our ship after that, for sure.
Yeah.
So now it's time for rapid fire questions. Favorite movie?
Field of Dreams.
Why?
Because the Dad You Want to Have a Catch is like the most emotional scene of any movie that I've ever seen in my life.
The question
I
I'm
feel
gonna
like
get you
you're
to
starting
cry?
to get choked up on this.
I lost my dad to dementia in 2013, and every year on opening day for Major League Baseball season, I watch that movie, and I watch it. Normally it ends up being by myself by the end of the movie where he says, "Hey, Dad, you want to have a catch?" And it's just, it's real powerful.
I'm going to pass on that question because that was a great answer.
Favorite restaurant in town?
Curate. Sorry. Luminary is a close second, but I like Curate better because they have my favorite drink.
I think all those high-end restaurants are awesome, but I mean, I'd probably just be just as happy with like a Head West or Monty sandwich, to be honest with you.
Favorite outdoor activity?
Laying in my hammock or canoeing.
I've started to golf quite a bit and like it more than I should admit.
All right, you're making a mixtape. Track 1.
Ooh. What? That's an intense question, Justin.
Wow.
The movie and music thing, I'm like, my brain goes a million different directions.
Right.
I don't know that I can, like, I need to think of what my answer is. So when people ask me that, I can just say that because my brain just explodes.
Logic's every day for me is sort of the motto.
Can we get a snippet of that?
I work hard
Every
every day. Yeah. And it's just on the days where on the days when we pull something off, I get in the car and put the windows down and turn that up and just celebrate it.
So my celebratory song is Eye to Eye from the Goofy movie, which
Loves the Goofy movie.
it's just a very energetic motivational song. So when I was in college and I would run, I would start my runs with that song every time. And I know it's really hokey, but listening to it recently while I was on a run, and I was thinking we need to do a team montage about this because it's just so empowering and uplifting. I'm seeing snippets from my day of my team and everybody working. I'm it's a vibe.
Okay.
All right.
Take your word for it.
Favorite teams?
Ours?
Sports teams.
Oh. I'm a Cardinals fan and a Titans fan.
Ooh, Titans. Oof. Sorry.
Cardinals, no allegiance anywhere else.
Favorite Disney movie?
Aladdin.
Hold on. How is it Aladdin? I thought it was Goofy.
Aladdin's right there. Think Lion King, though, is all-timer for me. You guys have you watched it lately? Scar is an epic character.
I love Scar.
Scar is is like
Colby
the
also loves
supporting
Scar's
cast.
song.
I love a good villain
And
song.
he's an epic villain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the best.
And it's so great to watch him go down.
How is it watching those movies with your kids? Experiencing it through your kids' eyes?
I didn't let my kids watch the dad dies scene, Mufasa dying scene in Lion King for years.
Really?
We fast forwarded past that part. I remember when I was a kid and I realized my parents will die someday. I shielded them big time from that.
Aldo doesn't really watch Disney movies. He likes more live action. He's
Okay.
just such a little
Reality based.
Adult.
Yeah.
Go to candy.
It's Reese's Peanut Butter Cup or Twix.
You're looking at me like you're
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Kit Kat's up there, Snickers up there, but if I had to pick between a Kit Kat and a Twix every day, I think I always pick the Twix.
Why?
Caramel.
The caramel, yeah. I like the wafer, but the caramel is
I swear.
chef's kiss.
I like turtles on the chocolate side. On the sweet side, I'm more of a Nerds Sour Punch straws.
Sour punch straws are
So have you tried these Nerds gummy thing?
Unbelievable.
So
Oh
good.
my god!
Unbelievable. I ate the whole bag.
Oh,
There's
like,
jelly beans that are nerd flavored that are like just like a jelly bean, but that have this hard
Yeah.
crust on the outside. But then you have the like goo that's
They're like-
basically mini
yeah.
Nerds ropes that are just
See, I don't like nerds
With the
ropes.
nerds stuck to them,
Little
like a
nuggets.
texture.
soft,
Yes.
Oh,
chewy
yeah.
candy that's
So
coated
good.
in hard
And the
Nerds.
crunch.
It's unbelievable.
All right, last one. Favorite beverage.
favorite beverage. Dr. Pepper.
Coffee. Nothing better than that
Both
coffee to
gross.
start the day.
Nasty.
What?
Coffee.
You
is
have
doesn't
to
like
stop
pickles,
attacking
she doesn't
people
like-
for what they like.
No, I'm just saying, nasty. All right. Well, thank you guys for being on LeadSC. We
Yes.
appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And thanks for being great leaders too.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys.